Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host on NBC Sports Network and, of course, the great website, profootballtalk.com. Mike, where do we stand on this 17-game schedule?
Well, I mean, the 17-game schedule is part of the 10-year CBA that is on the tee for the union to adopt if they ultimately adopt it. You know, one thing that really hasn't been explained the way it should be, Dan, when all this talk started a few weeks ago of the NFLPA having meetings with player reps to talk about the league's proposal, the reality is that through the course of 10 months, the NFL and the NFL Players Association's negotiating teams reached an agreement. They have an agreement. It's like two lawyers getting together, working out a settlement to a lawsuit and saying, all right, now all we got to do is sell it to our clients. And the NFLPA has had a hard time selling it to its clients, in part because the executive committee, which negotiated the deal, voted against accepting the deal on Friday, which is one of those head-scratchers like, wait a minute, you guys negotiated the deal, and now you're voting against it. And I think where it all stands, very simply, is this. The NFLPA is going to go back to the table to try to get more. There's no cost in asking for more. The question becomes, how will the NFL respond to this? Will they say, we have a deal, get out of here? Will they say, okay, fine, we'll negotiate and we'll sweeten the deal? And within that question, Dan, is the thing that fascinates me. Have they already planned for this? And do the owners have a stack of chips in their pocket that they're ready to put on the table to get this done without having to go back and discuss and vote and wring hands and gnash teeth over whether or not they're going to give more? They can huff and puff about the players coming back and say, well, this is a real problem. We have to talk about this. We have to think about this. And then they ultimately put on the table what they were going to put on the table anyway, and they get this done. And it feels to me like the NFL throughout this process has understood exactly where the ball is going. Like the NFLPA is trying to keep track of where the ball is. NFL knows where the ball is going, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't already have some extra stuff that they knew all along they were going to put on the pile of concessions and offers and terms, and they're going to do it this week to get the deal done.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Having covered a couple of these strikes and lockouts in the last 40 years, unfortunately, where it always felt like there's one or two items that it hinges on. It feels like there's a lot of ancillary stuff, but there's one or two items. I just don't remember the players having as much of a bargaining chip as they have with this 17 game.
Well, the problem, though, is they've spent the last 10 months negotiating based on 17 games. If it's a non-starter, then you tell the NFL at the very beginning, we're not doing 17 games, period, ever. We're not going to negotiate on it. We're not going to talk about it. Because what happens is after you spend 10 months negotiating a deal based on 17 games, it becomes a given that you're going to have a deal based on 17 games. The question is, what do they get for the 17 games? And I think what happened, Dan, when the NFLPA player representatives, executive committee, when they started to get together and start talking about this after the season ended, they were still feeling the physical effects of a 16-game season, which made them more likely to say we don't want 17. And I think the farther their bodies get removed from the end of football season, that cloud is going to start to move away, and they'll be more likely to go along with 17. But the urgency to get this done is very real. I mean, that's, you know, with the NFLPA, it's two deals that you have to look at for the NFLPA: what they get from the league and what the league gets from the TV networks. And I think the NFLPA leadership at the very top, the executive director, DeMaurice Smith, has decided everyone gets more if they do a deal now and they do TV deals premised on 10 years of labor peace versus slamming the brakes on everything and getting maybe lesser TV deals now or lesser TV deals later because of the specter of a potential work stoppage. And, you know, you're ultimately going to do a deal based on 17 games. When do you do it? And I think DeMaurice Smith has made the judgment, right or wrong, that everyone gets a better deal if they get this done now, so then they can maximize the TV money.
Yeah, I just don't understand the 10-year deal. I mean, it feels like it's going to be antiquated here, like after 5 years.
Well, I agree. But you know what? The more it's premised on a true sharing of the revenue, and they're getting closer and closer to 50-50.
Yeah.
48.5 is what the split will ultimately be. Now, you have to get your arms around the exemptions and the exceptions and the stuff they take off the top. And that was a sticking point in the summertime. It hasn't been mentioned much recently, but I think, you know, the question of the extent to which the players will help fund new stadiums, that apparently has been resolved because you don't hear anybody complaining about where things stand on that. But as it becomes a true partnership, and you're sharing the money. Now, the owners always have the equity, and the players have none, which gets overlooked. I mean, and the value of the franchises keeps skyrocketing. But the closer you come to a 50-50 split of the revenue, the more you can feel like it's a true partnership. And I know that there are some within ownership that want to approach it that way, but there's also a group of hardliners who their attitude is, screw them, lock them out. They work for us. We set the terms. We want 18 games. We want this. We want that. And there's kind of there's not as, they're doing a good job of holding everything together publicly, but I think behind the curtain there is some difference of opinion among the owners about how aggressive to be, and they're trying to simulate something that feels like a real partnership.
I don't know if it's a story. We're talking to Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk. You have Jim Irsay, who had some comments on Sunday, and he said he can't comment on Andrew Luck potentially coming back. Am I making too much of this?
No, I just think it's wishful thinking by a guy who would love to solve his quarterback problem by Andrew Luck coming back. Now, here's the thing. If they go out and spend a bunch of money on Phillip Rivers or someone else in free agency, if he would come back, it would be kind of like Brett Favre coming back after the Packers had committed to Aaron Rodgers. And they hadn't even paid Aaron Rodgers at that point, but they were going with Aaron Rodgers. If Andrew Luck comes back now, you slay the fatted calf and you welcome him home and you put him back under center. But if they go out and make a major financial commitment for a new quarterback and Luck decides, well, you know what, I feel pretty good, I'm going to come back and play, then the Colts are really in a tough spot at that point, and who knows what they would do. But I would be surprised if the Colts don't quietly try to find out whether or not there's any chance he comes back before they jump into free agency, if they jump into free agency to go after one of these guys that's out there.
And I usually take the opposite approach of whenever I hear information, like Tom Brady to the Cowboys. Like, I laughed at that. I went, feels like Jerry Jones is trying to create leverage with Dak Prescott, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right, Mike? I mean, I just went, okay, there are going to be hosts in this business who are going to run with this because it's the Cowboys and Brady, and that's a magic elixir. That's a Molotov cocktail. But, when you start to look at Brady, we know the Patriots don't say much, and, is Brady going to be leaking out something strategically here? I'm just trying to figure out, now the Titans were in, now the Titans aren't in, now it's the Raiders who might be, the front runner. Feels like we're going to have all this talk, and he's going to go back to the Patriots.
Well, and here's the key. Two things. First, this week at the Scouting Combine, that's when everything will be happening that we won't know about, where agents meet with teams about impending free agents. It's tampering, but everyone does it now, and you get an idea of who's going to be standing in line when free agency begins. So after this week, that's when the ball really swings back to the Patriots to see if they can work out a deal with Tom Brady. He'll know what's behind door number 2. Generally, the question is, what do the Patriots put behind door number 1? And the deeper we get into March without a deal for Tom Brady, that's when Patriots fans need to get nervous. And here's the real question. Here's the second dynamic. If he gets to free agency and he's going to do this Tom Brady vanity tour where he has them come to him. That's the ultimate boss move. This isn't Reggie White or Peyton Manning going city to city. This is, if you want me, you come to me. I'm going to sit on my throne with my crown, and you're going to have to come in and kiss the ring and kiss my butt, and you've got to you got to get my attention. Who can wait? With all these other options out there in free agency, which teams can afford to play this out with Tom Brady, run the risk of not getting him, and then have a plan B? And you know what? The Raiders make the most sense, Dan, because they can just hang on to Derek Carr. Hey, we have a bird in the hand. We'll go try to get Tom Brady, and if we don't get him and all of the other guys we would have pursued are signed elsewhere, we still got Derek Carr. We'll make it work for one more year, and then we'll see where we are next year.
Good to talk to you, Mike. We appreciate your time.
All right, Dan. See you, buddy.
That's Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.